All right. Well, sure. Welcome to the Red Road East. I'm your host, Fierce Truth Seeker. The Red Road East is an indigenous program dedicated to archiving and preserving the history, legacy, and culture of the original peoples of the Americas east of the Mississippi River and the Caribbean. Okay. So I see we have like four people in and one in the chat. Firebird, hey, Oshio. Yeah, glad you could join us. I'm not going to be too long tonight. I know that the reason for only four people watching right now is because everybody's with their families for the what they call Thanksgiving Day weekend. So, I'm not going to keep you too long. I'm going to try to keep it under an hour. Okay. So, we're continuing the discussion of colorism among American and global indigenous communities. This is part three, okay? And the part of the world we're focusing on today is tonight rather, is Latin America, okay? So let's get right into it. I'm gonna start sharing the screen. Well, a lot of people would be under the assumption that this type of stuff doesn't go on in Latin America, but it does. You know, so we're looking at the indigenous peoples in Latin America. Okay, and believe it or not, colorism is heavy in Latin America and the Caribbean. You know, it's not as overt in most ways as it is here in North America, and in some ways it is. Like for instance, and again, I want to reiterate that the reason for doing this series is not to cause division. It's because there are a lot of people who feel that we're just complaining too much, and also feel that we're targeting other natives of a different hue, of a lighter hue. And that's not the case. As I said several times, we're on the receiving end of the discrimination and disenfranchisement. Okay. So, to prove my point, blackface was a thing that used to go on heavily back in the days here, but in Latin America, it goes on heavily, as in this image right here. Okay. And they put this stuff right on the television. Okay. And that's just one out of many. Okay. Here's another one. Hold tight. Let me share the screen. Here's another one here. Okay. And there's a whole lot more. This goes on a lot. So again, I don't want to keep you all too long tonight. So I want to focus some attention right now on the Garifuna people of Honduras. They're in Honduras, they're in Belize, you know, different parts of Central America, originally coming from St. Vincent in the Caribbean. Okay. These are the indigenous people who originally came from St. Vincent. And during their Holocaust were sent in the Latin American diaspora. Okay. So let's see here. I'm gonna share again. This I do not own under a Fair Use Act. I'm gonna put the disclaimer out there. Fair Use Act for educational purposes only. I do not own the rights to this or any other video or audio that is shown in this presentation tonight. Okay, this is for educational purposes only. Okay, and with that said, this is from Channel 5 Belize, okay, which is another place where you find the Garifuna people. Okay, and this is, they're talking about cultural relations and colorism and things of that nature uh, in Belize and throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. Okay, so let me share the screen. Yes, Firebird, exactly. In Africa, bleaching skins is heavy. Yeah, that's right. You find it a lot in Jamaica, throughout Latin America, particularly in the Dominican Republic. You know, find it going on really heavy. And also, or before I even proceed with that, I'm leaving a link, not a link, I'm sorry, I'm leaving information for those who are generous enough to leave a donation. That is the PayPal and Cash App information where you can leave a donation. Okay. And with that said, I'm going to share the screen and we'll look at this video because I don't want to keep you too long tonight. Okay.
as well. So let's go back to that and talk about what really was initiated during our colonial time.
I have one thing in terms of what people perceive. There was a woman that came here and she was studying the mestizo culture, and she was looking at the different characteristics. And I was at that workshop. It was a Caribbean Studies Association, and she's giving. She was looking at and all of these whole characters. She is a fact that do that, and I got mad. I said, "Lady, that is your perception. You don't know the reality of these folk characters, and you don't know how the people interact with them. But what she had written, she carried that out of our country. And it goes to other countries and people perceive our people as such. And I hate that. That's why we have the History Association.
Well, let me add to that. Colonialism has had, like as you mentioned, some real profound impact on this society. As a matter of fact, I marvel, to be honest, I marvel over the past couple of days, what of time and energy that has been spent. And I'm not going to say the statement was right, it was good. I'm going to say it was unfortunate. But I mean, think about this and look at all the different ethnic groups in our country and what they focus on. You know, the reality is that whether you like it or not, economics is the basis. Economics is the basis of life. And while we, with our pigmentation, are fighting each other, people are there enriching themselves at our expense.
At our expense, I heard
right?
that.
When we are fighting each other, people are using their resources to control our political climate.
And I think that also leads back to colonialism.
Yeah.
Because that's
the remnants of colonialism.
Exactly,
Sorry,
exactly.
Jimmy.
Because
this picture, even though it's playing out in Belize, it is a picture that is equally played out in places like Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad, all over the Caribbean. As a matter of fact, interestingly, I was reading an article that takes us all the way to Mauritius in the Indian Ocean, where they do have also a Creole population there.
They do?
Yes, they do. And this person was referring to the Creole population there as being lazy and merry and also carefree. And also referred to other, like the Hindus as being stingy and mean and dishonest and stuff like that. So in every society, you have this kind of characterization of people, right? Kind of, and I know if it's akin to profiling, but it goes back to history. I mean, Creoles exist in other Caribbean countries. It's about the world. It had no race attached to it.
Especially in New Orleans.
Exactly, even in the United States, right? So in different parts of the Caribbean, different parts of Latin America, different parts of even in North America, and even as we notice, all the way up to the Indian Ocean, people who are black and also have other racial elements in their society or their structure, those people are referred to as Creoles. All right? But back to the whole Garifuna. Garifuna people came to Belize fleeing oppression from St. Vincent, where they had to fight to survive. Even and people ask sometimes why Garifuna people celebrate the 19th. And it is because they're celebrating something that they overcame when Garifuna people were supposed to be extinguished from, just like the Arawaks were totally eliminated. And so Garifuna people have been able to fight to survive, right? Now, in Belize, Garifuna people, I think Belize is one of the countries in the world where Garifuna people have been able to really be outstanding. And I don't think that Garifuna people have to be apologetic about, fighting and surviving and establishing themselves, because it's that Garifuna people, like other people, of course, are very intelligent. They're very capable. I understand they were among some of the early teachers at Belize, especially in the Catholic religion, who went around teaching different villages and so on. But that long-standing suspicion continued to exist between Garifuna people, and not all Creole
But what
people.
I'm trying
Some
to
elements
say
of the
is,
Creole
if we could,
Yeah.
let's pin it down, because one of the things that I have said about the conversation that came about following the comments by the PSU president was that it was also a history lesson for some people, because I think a lot of people didn't know that there were very severe restrictions in place about even the movement of particular cultural groups, and in this case, the Garifunas, and there was also kind of it was a forced divide. I would say, those are my words, between two cultural groups at that time.
Deliberately.
Yeah. So go back to the law. I mean, I want people, we really want people to be able to understand where this comes from and why even though we don't always recognize it. You know, my our good friend Yasser Musa was on this couch and he said we're all hypocrites to be railing up about this issue, because whether we want to admit it or not, we are very divided. So let's talk about where it comes from, and maybe we can help, or say we can bring ourselves to the understanding as to why we have these particular behaviors, and maybe we don't where.
I really and at the time they were called Caribs. Like I said, the term Carib came, and it was not like you did talk with anybody, right? But the Caribs, the older people say Carib, we say Caribs. The Caribs themselves were, they could not come to Belize, they could not live in Belize. They only had 36 hours to stay in Belize, and that's why people call them 36 or 72. People don't know all of these things. I grew up with that.
That's the history of using the number.
That's right.
So 36 was because they were limited to 36
hours
within the city.
Within the city. Do you understand me?
Which
And
at that time was the main colony setting.
exactly, because they were given to live down south, but they could not come and, because they had to work and do whatever up here. So they were only given 36 hours, and then they had to go back, which I think was ridiculous. All right. And then growing up as a child, we are used to saying Carib. The older people used to say Carib. And as a child, you don't think about those things. But as the time changed, I think that the Garifuna people, that stigma, and way back, I'm not tell you about myself. That uno kill out the Arawak people.
along with your help.
The Arawak Indians, because they had beautiful women. You said, hey, man, they wanted the women, so they killed out the Arawak men and took the women.
But
you didn't know that.
Remember that was a Caribbean Arawak. At that time, they were not yet mixed with the Africans.
I know.
With the Creole element. Because
I know.
When you think about Garifuna people as black people with Caribbean, then actually, Garifuna people are also Creoles, in a sense. And people might not want to hear that, but that is the reality. I mean, look at
based
me
on
and
the
you.
definition of Creole
Well,
being mixed.
If people looked at me and you, Miss Berna, they can't say you're Creole, I'm Garifuna.
Well, that is
right?
true.
Yeah,
That
so
is true. But
maybe you can't speak Garif. I know you know a couple of words, but
Buite Binafi.
Buite Binafi, Miss Berna.
And I'll tell you afterwards and tell you what they teach me.
I know. Yeah. So it's like you say, that this whole thing can be traced back to colonialism.
That's right.
And the actions of, that colonialism is still reigning heavy.
Especially with the Creole population.
I took a group of students to Dangriga once and took them to Penn Cayetano's museum. And Penn, he came out, Penn, the beat, the drum, and so on. Interestingly, the Mestizo kids and the East Indian kids were willing to dance with Penn. The Creole kids stood outside and looked. And I said to them, I am sure if I played Michael Jackson, they would jump up and dance. Right? But you really cannot blame the kids. It is because somehow we have been taught to believe that anything African, anything indigenous is not as good as what comes from Europe and North America.
That is true.
Right? And the problem is that if we cannot accept our blackness, if we cannot accept our indigenous selves, if we cannot accept ourselves, then we will never be able to become prosperous. It looks like we'll be prosperous, but we're not. Right?
I think an interesting part, an important part of the conversation is that perpetuation. And like Yasser said, it's hypocritical because we have this institutionalized sense of racism where they were the dominant at the time. That were here, the different colors of the black people. And I think that is also remnant and very visual, very present here in our society today. We have this sense of entitlement because of our skin color, and I think it's been pushed onto us. It's been fed to us, and I think that's where the hypocrisy comes in, because we act like this new conversation, this new statement is something that is so
we haven't heard before.
We are a very divided society, and we perpetuate those divides even with our own children. When we have a lighter skinned child that's born and a darker skinned child, and I think the conversation needs to be that it's something that's been fed to us, and that we need to stop eating, and we need to change. And how do you encourage families? How do you encourage parents that have perpetuated this institutionalized sense of racism? How do you encourage them to change that with their children?
And let me ask the question.
You wait, Makai.
Sure, Ms. Myrna, no problem.
Wait, Makai.
We'll both get a chance. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Myrna.
No, and something that I'm passionate about. We have the National Creole Council. Do you think we have many members who come and pay? No. They tell, oh, Ms. Myrna, we like where to do, but guess what? No, because they, on certain level class of society or whatever, like they're afraid to say they're black. They're not black, but they're afraid to say they're in a Creole. And that is a problem we have within our Creole population, are not acknowledge the fact that you, the Creole, your back, you come from Africa. Somebody want you to tell, oh, me not come from Africa, like Africa is bad. I don't know if you've heard that. They don't come from Africa, like Africa is bad, And I have to deal with that all the time. And then I have to understand, I don't care what color shade you have. If you got black in you, you're a Creole. Yeah. You're a coffee. Yeah.
And even those we call white within our society, you can see are still mixed with people of color.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And let's go beyond a little bit. How relevant is the Creole Garifuna question beyond the shores of Belize?
Yeah.
How relevant is it?
Yeah.
How relevant is it? You understand me? So to me, it's something that we need to understand. It's something we need to work on, because it's something we're actually wasting precious time on.
Well, I want to go even further than that, because I understand, obviously, you're both here as representatives of the Creole Council, and while you're here as a representative of UB, you will also be here as a Garifuna person, somebody who you actually work with the council as well. That's your identity. But then, I mean, this is not just a cultural divide between Garifuna and Creole. We know in this country as well that the mestizos and even the immigrants that are in the culture in this country also have an ethnic divide with people who are in this country. But we know that we still have perceptions of the Mayan communities and still speak of the Mayan communities the way I heard as a child, and I'm sure has been from long before that. So it is not just, and I'm saying that because I don't want us to feel like this conversation is centered around Creole versus Garifuna.
No.
This goes widespread. And we almost seem to be comfortable with it, that it's okay unless it's recorded and then play back for everybody else.
It's so funny, because I was having a conversation with my family, and my mom said she doesn't know why there's such an outrage, because there are so many conversations like that happening across the country. It's just unfortunate that he was both sides.
But his position is what really.
Of course, the outrage, of course, is the racism, obviously.
And not only the racism per se, but the attempt to use race. Let us. I mean, I don't have the full story. But if you're gonna try to block out a group of people from some executive because they're Garifuna, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's totally ridiculous. Now, I think it may. I don't know the gentleman, but it may have been a careless statement made in the heat of some kind of discussion, which maybe necessarily did not come from the heart.
Well, very clearly.
But it was unfortunate.
But he stood by his position on this show. I have to say that. And I want to be very clear. While we keep on saying it's hypocritical, it's not right. Because it was not just speaking out against the race. It was having a planned action against a race as a leader of a body of persons that does include Garifuna. And
I think that
if I go for a job interview, you cannot decide you won't hire me because I'm Garifuna.
Definitely.
That's ridiculous.
And just let me clarify. Obviously, there is an outrage because of the way that it was said. But I think it's timely. And I don't want to negate that.
Yeah.
It's timely because we hide these conversations. We pretend like they don't exist.
Yeah.
We pretend like we're so holier than thou and that we don't have our own innuendo, our own sense of racism.
Yeah.
And I think it's timely that we're having this conversation. And I think that's the conversation that we were having as a family.
Yeah, and I also want to add to that one of the things we see, and I always speak about it on the show, and I don't know, we're so influenced by North America. It is the only media that we get. And I always, with utter frustration, pay attention to what some people are buzzing about online. And when there's the Black Lives Matter movement, people are all on board. There suddenly is a black versus white issue in this country, where for a long time, it has been not just black, it's black versus black, it's black versus brown, it's yellow versus black, it's all colors and all ethnicities. And so we keep on, when you talk to people about Hispanics coming in, Latinos coming in and taking jobs, there's an issue there. And we hear some of the very the racial slurs that would take place in a conversation like that. Exactly. We have a growing Chinese population, also immigrants. We hear how people speak. You walk into a store, you wouldn't believe that that's a store owner speaking to a customer, or a customer speaking to a store owner, or a child speaking to an adult, to just go back to the basics. So it's okay in certain circles, or it's okay in certain circumstances, but it's not okay if I am the victim. That's what I see.
Can I point out something? You look at the different ethnic groups we have in Belize, and the divisions that exist between them. The Eastern Nens. Look at the differences, or that exist between the Eastern Nens who came after who are recent immigrants. They almost don't have anything together. Right. Look at the Chinese and the Taiwanese. Right? They have their issues there. You have the recent immigrants from Central America and the immigrants, mestizos also came from across the Hondo. I remember once I was a student who said to me at UB, he said, we have to deal with them. We have to deal with them Panay, And I look at the guy, I said to myself, but you're mestizo. And he said, I'm a mestizo, but I grew up in the Belize River Valley. I'm in Panay. Right? So you have that, right? And even in the Garifuna race, they have their divisions. You hear the famous Gapeng Suli, Mapeng Suli. The educated one and non-educated one. So you have these different groups. The mestizos have their, then so every group they have some element of the vision, right? Because in social interaction, there will be things that people identify against human each
nature.
other.
Well, I believe that is without a doubt. I don't think we're going to sit around and sing kumbaya. I think it is important that we face the problem and recognize how it has been detracting from our own development.
That is the point.
That is the fundamental
and
issue
development
here.
is economics.
If we don't recognize that we're getting caught up in fighting what is essentially our equal over the limited space we've been provided, then we'll never claim the space that is actually ours.
We are fighting each other while other people are building huge buildings in the least.
Exactly.
While other people are controlling the money, controlling everything. And we are fighting each other about something that I believe we should sit down and talk about as we're doing today.
Yeah.
But sometimes it has to do with the person's
We
ego.
are losing this country every day. You go to, I don't know the last time you went down south, which was once seen by.
Yes.
And you see that atrocious situation that has emerged there, right? And yet still, all of us have this pigmentation. We are wasting time and energy fighting each other rather than trying to empower ourselves to build ourselves so we can have something to leave for the next generation.
So
this is the 10th, this is the international year. It's the 10 years for the Afro descendants. What are we doing?
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
just formed that up. We just got together
Yeah.
to Sandra Miranda and the Creole Council and whatever, I forgot the rest of the people to try to look at what are we going to do over the next 10 years to raise the consciousness of Black or
Yeah.
Afro
Afro
descendants.
descendants.
Exactly. Afro descendants, and they include a lot of people.
Yeah.
Some of them include the Mayas, the East Indians, and and I'm glad that, I'm like I said this out public, I'm glad that the East Indians have finally come together
Yeah.
and have an organization.
Yeah.
I've been pushing for that for
Yeah.
years. So, but seriously, it is the 10 years for Afro Descent, and 2 years have gone by, and Belize have not gotten involved. We're just beginning to get involved. This was done at the level of governments and all the countries, and some of them already put their stamp on it. So,
You realize the Black population in Belize is building.
of course,
I mean,
because
when I was a young boy, we had the
Looking at the 2010 almost half Hispanic
Yeah.
population at this point
Right.
in time.
even though there are more, we have
Yeah.
to stop.
So I think just the way Belize has changed over the past couple of years is one that I don't think we have been paying enough attention to,
True.
because we've been caught up in these kinds of
Exactly.
issues.
Yeah.
And it is
Exactly.
to recognize women of the East Indian Council, the committee there.
Love it.
We have the National Creole Council. We have the Garifuna councils. Now, how do you help people who choose to associate with your embrace their culture, but also respect others and understand that there's quite likely that there is also a little bit of the other one in me, as much as I identify with
And
this
go
one.
beyond that.
Yeah.
Wait.
Go beyond that.
I have said this, and I've said it over and over again to individuals who are totally mixed up. You decide what cultural group or you want to hang with. You may be African and you may be mestizo. If you're living in a mestizo community and you want to practice that culture, that is fine. You know that you or your ethnicity is mixed, but you are the ones who decide what culture you are going to follow. Nobody can dictate that to you. Yes or not, that's a very problem. But you as an individual have to be the one to decide what cultural group you're going to follow. If I'm the Black and I grew up in a mestizo group, and I don't know nothing about the Creole community, how the hell I want? I want to practice the mestizo culture.
Yeah, but I would like to take this cultural discussion a little bit further. I think this cultural discussion, and even these organizations that promote culture, I think they have to start to look at economics.
Yeah. So I just we can stop it there. I just wanted to play that video so that you can get an idea of Latin America, okay? And that's not the only video I wanted to show, but that is coming from the perspective of the Garifuna people, okay? And as well as um, individuals on the panel from Belize that are not Garifuna, okay? And let's see here. But again, The problem I have with that conversation is that the Garifunas on the panel there, they are still going with the colonialist narrative, okay, that if you have dark skin, you're automatically African, okay? And that's not based on their own oral tradition. That's what was taught to them, okay? And you find this phenomenon all over the world. Wherever you see dark skinned people outside of Africa, they automatically label them African. Okay. Now, that's not to say that there were not African influences. Okay. But that doesn't mean that everybody is a result of African admixture. Okay. Because Africa doesn't have a patent on dark skin. You see? So, yeah. Now, what I want to do is take a look at some other aspects of racism in Latin America, and it's a topic of discussion that tries to get swept and kept under the rug because you have a lot of colorism in Latin America. Okay, a lot of colorism in the Caribbean. Okay, and you find it in, again, it's not as overt as, say, like how we had Jim Crow here and stuff like that, but it's definitely practiced, particularly when you look at some of the practices such as marrying practices. You know, there's a lot of trying to what they call advancing the race by carefully choosing not to marry someone who is darker than themselves so that their children can come out to be lighter or whiter, okay? More of a hybrid phenotype, okay? And what is projected is a misconception of the people because automatically, when you think of someone who is Latino, automatically the first thing that comes in your mind is someone that looks like J Lo or Desi Arnaz. Okay, but that is due to selective breeding practices. Okay, that's not how the people originally looked. The people were originally dark skinned. Okay, and Hollywood runs with that. Okay, and you also see it on Latin American television when you look at the novelas. Okay, what do you see? Lily White. Okay, and it projects the false assumption that all Latinos look like that. Okay, look light in complexion with straight or curly hair. And that's far from the reality. Yes, exactly, cousin Celia Cruz. Yep, you know, exactly. Asuka, you know. So now what I want to do is show another video that's highlighting some of those attitudes that get swept under the rug. And before I do that, I want to just, again, I'm not going to keep y'all too long. For those who would like to leave a donation, that is the information where you can send it for Cash App and PayPal. Okay. So let's take a look at the next video. Give me 1 second. Just queuing it up.
This
1 second here. Share the screen.
is one of the first towns in the Americas, San Basilio de Palenque, Colombia. Listen to the drums, explore the murals, and study dancing. It was founded around 1603 by self-liberated Africans who escaped from the slave ports of Cartagena, Colombia. Spanish colonizers relentlessly tried to destroy this town, but centuries later, it's still standing. And this is the only Black president Colombia has had. They purposely erased him from history books. Government officials even sent his official presidential portrait to Paris to whiten his appearance. You may not have expected to find stories like these in Latin America. See, the dominant narrative is that racism doesn't exist in the region, just class issues. And I'm here to tell you that is a lie.
Pero es que no hay negros en la Argentina.
It's a very convenient cop-out for Latin America and for Latinos, Latines to say, well, it's not as bad as the US, and they're right, it's worse.
This is a story about Latin America's long and brutal history of erasing and silencing Black populations and its ploy to whiten society. Here's the thing. Anti-Blackness is so deeply ingrained in the Latin American region that it's often ignored or defended, like in the case of Dominican baseball player Sammy Sosa, who downplayed using a bleaching cream that whitened his skin. From Peruvian newspapers using 159 different racist adjectives to describe African-descended people, to terms of endearment like mi negrita, which actually stem from the idea of people as property, to blackface, used as a form of entertainment. It's all part of a slew of everyday racism. There is plenty of evidence showing that racism is rampant in Latin America, but many Latin Americans have evaded accountability by treating racism as solely a U.S. problem. Unlike the U.S., where racism was upheld by legal separation like Jim Crow laws,
you're not a Texan if you're not for segregation.
Countries including Colombia, Mexico, and Brazil encouraged the mixing of different racial types, known in Spanish as mestizaje. As a result, this ideology of mixing has been used for centuries to deny the presence of Black and Indigenous people throughout the region.
This idea that everyone is mixed also has been completely overblown because Latin America is not unique in its mixedness. But that has been the mantle that it has taken upon itself so that you can evade accountability. How can we be racist if we're all mixed? Well, you certainly found very many ways to be.
Meet Harris Machado. She's Panamanian American and the producer of Negro, a docuseries about Latino identity.
We all know those sayings. You're treating me like a Black person. Trabajar como un negro, working like a Black person. Don't marry a Black person. Come on. Be serious again. And everybody knows these sayings. This is every single last country. Like, stop playing with us. Stop playing in our faces.
To understand how deep anti-Blackness runs in the region, let's go back a couple of centuries, starting with the wars of independence from Spain for the region now known as Latin America. Meet Simón Bolívar. He's considered the great liberator of Latin America. But he wouldn't have liberated anything if it wasn't for the help of Haiti, where a rebellion by enslaved Africans created the and the Haitian presented liberation condition. If Bolivar won, he had to abolish slavery and the new republic he was fighting for. Bolivar agreed, and a few years later, he defeated Spain throughout South America and declared himself president of present-day Colombia, Venezuela, Panama, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. Around 60% of soldiers who fought for Bolivar were Black, but Bolivar betrayed them. His promise to completely abolish slavery was a lie. He even complained that Black soldiers were audacious to want absolute equality. They had to wait 40 years after the war to gain their freedom. Bolivar and many other white elites feared that they would eventually be outnumbered by Black and Indigenous people. So he maintained Latin America's colonial, racial, and class hierarchy to keep control among the white elites. Bolivar believed in liberation, but only for some.
Whites will not give up anything to Black people, or in general, unless it benefits them more. We're talking about a definite racial and social stratification that was the foundation of the region and in which the region still adheres to. Nothing has changed.
Anti-Blackness was baked into the foundation of the region, but that anti-Blackness didn't stop with Bolivar. See, the emancipation of slavery was a threat to the social hierarchy in Latin America, so white elites came up with a plan to systemically, physically, and culturally wipe out Black people. How did the region do it? Mass white European immigration, while banning the immigration of non-whites. Welcome to the Blancamiento and Brancamiento period, which literally mean to whiten. The goal was for future generations to no longer have visibly Black and Indigenous people, so that the national identities in these new nations would be associated with whiteness. In this period, elites aimed to make Black people disappear through their gradual absorption into the white race. Over 10 million European immigrants settled in Latin America between 1880 and 1930, with 90% of them going to Argentina, Uruguay, Cuba, and Brazil. Brazil even went as far as to pay for transportation costs from Europe and passed a law making European immigrants automatic citizens as soon as they arrived. European immigrants were given preference over Black people in jobs, housing, and education. And the impacts of this are still felt today. Today, over 78% of Afro-Brazilians live below the poverty line. There have been many attempts to resist the relentless oppression of Black people in Latin America. In Brazil, the Unified Black Movement has challenged racial and class discrimination since the 70s. And in Colombia, Francia Marquez has led the battle for Afro-Colombian land rights since she was 15. She gave a voice to people who didn't feel represented by the white elites who ruled Colombia for centuries. And in 2022, she was elected Colombia's first Black vice president.
Después de 214 años, logramos un gobierno del pueblo, el gobierno de los nadies y las nadies de Colombia.
So the policies aimed at erasing Black people from society failed, but they successfully created many obstacles that prevented Afro-descendants from accessing land, education, and the labor market. And that's why you can't talk about the current Black people in Latin America without acknowledging the series of discrimination, racism, and oppression. Dash says that in order for anti-Blackness to be dismantled, people have to give up power.
Our power needs to be seized. Because we're talking about lived and material conditions when we're talking about anti-Blackness. It's not just simply someone not liking me because they are anti-Black. We're talking about systems that decide people's life and if you will even have a life.
This means it's not just about acknowledging and celebrating Black people's contributions in Latin America during festivals or national holidays, but about reparations and setting up systems that actually benefit Black communities.
It's about repair and transformation. And it cannot be up to the same people who benefit from my subjugation.
Despite these challenges, Black people throughout Latin America continue to fight for equality. And just like San Basilio de Palenque, Black communities are still standing.
Okay, so you just have to dodge, those hijacks with the whole colorable terms, Black and African and stuff like that. The important takeaway is the fact that the reason why I'm sharing this is because this is a phenomenon that is global. This trying to erase the dark skin phenotype. Okay, this is how it happens. Okay, and it happens all over the world. Okay, everybody is trying to get rid of this phenotype, lighten up, whiten up. Okay, then a couple of generations down the line, you would think that all the people looked light skin or white skin. You see what I'm saying? Want to share another video here right quick so that y'all don't think it's just one or two isolated incidents, because it's not. Give me 1 second. These are not isolated. I'm telling you, literally, this happens all over the world. And I see that the numbers, have dropped off dramatically since we started this discussion tonight. And I know, yes, this is a very discomfortable, very uncomfortable topic, that people don't want to discuss. And that's the problem. See, the problem is that no one wants to talk about it. You see what I'm saying? No one wants to talk about it. So, it gives the impression that the problem doesn't exist. The impression that, oh, y'all are just, y'all are a little too sensitive. You see what I'm saying? You're just too sensitive. What are y'all complaining about? You see? That's how that goes down. Okay? But I'm showing you these videos from across the globe so that you could see that, this is a real problem, and a lot of people, some people don't even know, anything about these dynamics. Okay? So what I want to do, hit you with another video, with another perspective, okay, from someone else in Latin America who I'm sure some of you will be familiar with and some of you will not, okay? Share screen.
I think this is probably the perfect day to be having this conversation, all things considered.
Martin Luther King Day?
Yes, but Love and Hip Hop Miami, the latest installment of the Love series, which is really taken off. And one of the breakouts, her interaction with a producer, Young Hollywood, who's also on the show, started a whole conversation about. Here's what he said about Amara's hair, and then we're going to tell you how Amara's skin has now become an issue as well.
Let's say we were actually to take off some and do a record, right? And I'm like, yo, I need you to look a certain way.
What would a certain way look like? What do you have in mind? What do you have in mind?
A little bit more Beyonce, a little less Macy Gray. You know, you gotta be a little more sensual. You know, the Afro is cool. Maybe we could do, you know what I'm saying, like a bit like a video here and there, certain looks, but you know, maybe try something different looks. You can see Beyonce just like this, Soul Sister, the same way you can see her come in a beautiful gown, elegant, breathtaking.
So I can be elegant and Afro. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess so.
Young Hollywood, you don't put your foot in your mouth. So that became a huge issue. And so Amara is joining us right now, but we're also going to talk about, after people saw that scene, a lot of people started questioning whether or not Amara is darkening her skin. I don't know what the answer is to that and why this has become a thing, but she's joining us right now, so we'll get to the bottom of all of this. Amara, welcome to TMZ Live. How you doing?
Hi, good in yourself. I am happy to be here with you guys today.
Well, hey, we're happy you're here. So first of all, what's your reaction to that?
Honestly, at the moment, I was upset. It's not new to me that you know that I do get judged by the way that I look, being an Afro-Latina. I call it the brainwashed mentality of the industry, where they consider that you have to have a certain standard of beauty in order to succeed, which I'm totally against. And I proved Young Hollywood wrong, because a few days later, I did just get signed to a major label. So how about that?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious. There's an overlay to all of this. You remember, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago, when Beyonce took a lot of heat because she did a L'Oreal ad and it looked like they lightened the picture.
Skin, yeah.
Right.
And so that's become kind of a recurring theme, that advertisers and sometimes artists have tried lightening their skin, and which is very counterproductive in many, many ways. But I'm just curious what you think of that, and whether you think that's what caused him to say what he said.
No, I mean, coming from the Latin market, I know that for the most part, and the reason why I was vocal after all is because they never women like myself in any platform, whether it's novelas, music, movies, nothing. When they talk about the Latinas, and I always refer to them, they always talk about J-Lo, Shakira. That's the prototype of what Latinas should look like. But if you look like myself, you're kind of lost on the map. You're not Latina because you're too black to be Latina or whatever the case may be. So then that's why I'm really fighting for, like, what's wrong with me? I'm talented. I'm smart. So what's the issue? So then as far as the lightning skin thing, I've had pressure somewhat, and I've been told, you know, you should be lighter, or you should do this. I would never change my skin color. I love my color. And just like, there's this rumor, or this, you know, that I'm doing blackface, or that I take melanin shots or pills to make my skin darker. Why would I do that if I'm already black? I don't get it. I'm not. I mean, feel free to rub me, and I've done myself to prove to people I am naturally black. I am not trying to spray tan my skin to make it any darker.
You're not pulling a Rachel Dolezal.
I'm not. So I just think it's the fact that people feel as if this is almost new, which is not, because we've been here for years, but this is almost new that you're Latina, but you're Black, you speak Spanish. Just that whole concept to a lot of people is new. So I think that that's just what brings up that somewhat fear of what is she. So yeah.
Okay, well, you're opening their eyes to it, hopefully, and then it won't be an issue. But I love the fro.
I love fro, and we're rooting for you.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I am so honored. I am so blessed to be in this stage of my life right now. Musically, I just got signed to a major deal, to a major record, BMG. Thank you so much for the love and support. There's movies coming up, my music. There's just so many good things happening.
I gotta tell you, you haven't won the Academy Award yet, Steve. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, you know, this is another example here. And Amara La Negra, she is, a beautiful sister, with the fro, you know, and she was told, be more Beyonce, a little no, a little more Beyonce, a little less Macy Gray. You see, so and this is the prevailing mentality. Again, I'm not trying to stir up animosity. I'm bringing awareness to a mindset that is so ingrained that it's just like automatic. It's not even thought of as being racism, but it is. You know, the colorism, is very real. I want to show two more quick clips. She was even encouraged not to marry someone that looked like her. You know, let me show you a clip where she talks about that as well. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Don't go anywhere. I'm just.
That are happening here. There's the internet.
So, again, like I said before, this is a real issue and it's sad. You know, it's really sad. It's worldwide. Like on the first show that we did on this topic, number one, uh, I showed you India and what goes on in India, to the point that they're burning the people. That's how deep this colorism goes, you know, really deep, and there even black facing, in Latin America, as I showed you earlier. Here's another blackface image right here from Latin America. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I know a lot of people don't want to deal with this, but it's real. How you like this one? How y'all like that? Even eating watermelon. Black face. You know? See that? How y'all like that? Yes, Awanasa begins with racism in the home. Someone's teaching that racism to their children. Yes, indeed. As I was saying earlier, they tell their children not to marry someone, quote unquote, black. That's what it's taught. It's taught to marry someone lighter, you know, advancing the race, as they call it. It's sad. That's that old brainwash mentality, that old nigger mentality, you know. Sad. And that's true, cousin. The watermelon, everybody eats watermelon. That's very true. That's very true. I see Caucasian people tearing up some watermelons. Matter of fact, when the watermelon, when my father used to live in Forest Hills, there used to be a watermelon man that used to set up on the corner of his block. Man, you should see them Caucasians going and buying up that watermelon. They were buying up watermelon more than anybody else. I used to be cracking up. I used to be cracking up. I'm here to tell you, they would be buying up some watermelon, you know. But yeah, and that right there is one out of many issues. So that video that we were watching there was Amara La Negra, right? Now watch this. Again, like I said, she is a beautiful sister, and natural, proud of how she looks, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Now, hold on, let me stop sharing this. And I want to show you something else. Give me 1 second. So that was Amara La Negra, right? So now, here is Amara La Negra today.
Now that I see you in person, you don't look like a black person. You look like a Latina or something like that, right?
Really?
Why would you want to call yourself Afro Latina? Black people are so negative. There's nothing really good about being an Afro. and they pretend to be.
You're terrible.
No.
What?
And they pretend to be Afro Americans when really they are Americans. They wouldn't even recognize Africa if you drove down the road past them.
Right.
Want to present yourself and because you want to present yourself with the Afro thing. What's the purpose?
Culture.
I want to pause it right there. Afro is gone. I was so disappointed when I saw this. Okay. She looked beautiful with the Afro. But I guess the pressure just got to her and she couldn't stand the heat. Okay. I was very proud of her. As a matter of fact, when I first saw her with this, because this is 3 years ago, when I first saw her with this a few years ago, I had sent her I had commented on one of her videos. I was like, what happened to the Afro? The Afro was so lovely, you know? She didn't give a response. But I mean, you know, this is what we're dealing with. You know, this is what we're dealing with. I guess the pressure, it was too much. Until I guess if someone beats into your head that you're ugly so much, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly, your skin is ugly, your brown skin is ugly, your hair is too nappy, you're you know, then or the other thing, or you need to bleach, you need to do a Sammy Sosa, you know, and for some people, if your constitution is not strong enough, you'll capitulate. Okay, but I want to take you guys' temperature, you guys and you females' temperature. How many of you how many of you feel that she looks better this way, or how many of you feel that she looks better with the afro? Which one, the perm or the afro? Let me know in the chat. Oh, okay. So Awanasa says no chemicals. Right. Yeah. Okay. I get that. But even with that, it's still uh the opposite of what she was preaching before. She was talking about the afro before, you know. I know, yeah, definitely you can switch up we can switch up the beauty of our hair. I'm just talking about the mindset of her. She was very militant, you know, and based on how she was speaking before, she wouldn't change the fro, is what I'm getting at, you know. And remember when she was told less more Beyonce and less Macy Gray, remember what her response was. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm going on, is what her stance was in terms of, cause her fro was her whole persona, you know. Or you seen her wearing both in a movie? Okay, you know. Um, Me personally, I like the fro better. That's just, my preference. I mean, you know, she still looks good. It's just me. I like the fro. That's my personal preference. You know. Um, Peace, Makira, Peace I Am, Kira, says she likes the fro. Yeah, I'm more feeling the fro myself. Anyone else in the chat? Well, what y'all feel looks better? Oh yeah, I agree, cousin. It's versatility. You know, I'm just going by her particular stance because when you see her nowadays, you see the less of the fro. Before she was strictly um, the fro. Like you say, you've seen her changed up. You know, um, I'm just going by the change in pattern, which again, a woman is free to, do what they want with their hair. It's just my personal preference. You know, and I'm trying to gauge, you know, what uh, what you all think. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. You know, I'm just trying to get a feel for uh, get some feedback from you all. Peace I am. Kiara says, as a Moorish American, I'm not trying to fit into European society. I hear you. Yeah, the Europeans, they definitely do copy our style too. That's true. Yeah, they copy a lot of our stuff. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to get some feedback from y'all and see what y'all felt about that. I appreciate everybody's comment, and so I'll continue on with that discussion. I just wanted to interject. Um, Unfortunately, she's being interviewed by a certified coon. Um, he kind of reminds me of Candace Owens, But anyway, let's listen on.
Actually, yes, I am very Dominican. I am very Latina, but you can obviously also tell I am very black as well.
Right.
And I wouldn't say what exactly. The thing is that what exactly does a Latina look like? So
Like
if I'm a dark Latina, what does a Latina look like?
Like you.
So what does an African American woman look like? Like me.
No, but there's no such thing as an African American woman. They made that up.
Okay,
They
so we're
are
all
Americans.
Africans.
They are American. They were born
Okay.
here. They're American, but they're dumb, and so they're calling themselves African Americans because they don't think for themselves. Jesse Jackson told them to call themselves that.
Oh, okay.
Why would you? A woman like you, so talented, you don't even look like them. Why would you want to attach that to your name? What?
You know, you are very special. Moving forward. Help! Okay. You know what? I am
better and sooner if you didn't have the Afro.
No. I will always be Afro Latina, and that's why I'm an activist. I love my melanin. I love my background. I love my race, and I feel that that's even more of a reasons why my name is Amara La Negra, which means, in English, the translation would be the black. I'm very proud of my color, and I know that I've always had to work twice as hard in order to get my work recognized, but that's fine though.
Twice as hard as who?
Well, as anybody that's, of lighter complexion. And this is not something that's new or something I'm trying to make a controversy about. This is actual facts,
Well, see, that's not true either. The blacks are lying about that when they say they have to work harder than the white person to move up. They're just lazy. They don't want to work hard.
No, I would never generalize and say that black people are lazy.
They are. When they
There's a certain amount of people that can be lazy.
I know, but what they're saying is, Lord, I don't feel like working. but the white man gonna show me off.
No.
So I know I gotta work, Lord. I gotta go out
But are you
here and
serious
work.
though?
Yeah, I gotta work harder than the white man. You're supposed to work hard. The reason you're so good at what you do, you naturally do it. And not because you're trying to prove anything to the white people, you just being you. Isn't that better?
But the thing about it is that in my eyes, it's not a black and white thing. Not in my eyes.
But in their eyes, it is.
Yeah, but the thing is that I'm not concerned about their eyes. You see, I'm concerned about minds. In
away
my eyes, coming from a Latin background, also being born and raised in the United States, I'm able to see both sides. And it's not, a colorism also exists amongst my own community. And we're all Dominicans, or we're all Cubans, or we're all Venezuelans, or we're all Latinos at the end of the day. And that still happens amongst us. So it's not just a Caucasian thing and a black thing, not in my eyes.
But to these black people, yeah, I'm telling you, black people not.
So out of curiosity,
The lights are on, but ain't nobody home.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You
Just
know
out
what
of
I mean?
curiosity. So what are you? What are you?
An American.
You're
black
an American.
American. And a guitar playing in my heart, not drums.
Not drums.
I'm
Right.
an American. Why don't you
You're
just be Dominican?
I am Dominican.
But don't put the Afro stuff. You hurt yourself.
Never.
Believe me.
Oh, okay.
Because they're never going to accept you.
Oh, well, then I have another option but to. See, I'm breaking barriers and it's working. So I think it's also about being vocal and also being able to uplift other people to realize their own greatness. And it has worked. It is working, People in Espanol just consider me one of the 50th most prettiest people. And I was able to be on the cover, which for the most part, we don't get a lot of, if not to say none at all, but we don't get a lot of Afro-Latinos on covers, on soap operas, on movies. So, it is working to be vocal about it.
You don't see a lot of black people on magazines and things, right? Because black people don't work for themselves. They want something. They want the white man to do it rather than just doing it themselves. If they did it themselves,
okay.
And not all, but most.
Right. Let's not say most or anything like that, because there is a lot of successful African Americans, successful black people. If you don't want to, put the African part, there's a lot of amazing, successful people that are
Not true.
brilliant.
Not true. I don't know if you know or not. In this country, black people are not successful. They're only where they are because of affirmative action based on color. They're not smart enough. They don't work as hard. They're there because of color. That's why I don't want you to have the Afro thing, because I watched some of your videos. You have a natural talent. So if you just be you.
I am me.
But don't do the Afro thing, because blacks only get in these positions because of their color, not because they're qualified.
Oh, okay.
They get into
Like you're not
universities.
qualified to be here now?
Yeah, because I'm not into the Afro thing.
Oh, okay. So
I'm just being me.
Okay.
And so, but if you're into the Afro thing, the white people gonna let you in because they're scared not to, and not because they think you're qualified. You see these black entertainers, the black educators, they're not real smart. They only got it because of affirmative action. Now they want reparations. Do you want reparations?
I'm actually not sure, but I'm sorry. This is the first time I have an interview like this. I'm feeling a little lost right
Are
now.
you having fun though?
I'm not sure how to feel right now.
What do you mean?
I'm slightly confused. I don't know if to laugh or if to, have a love and hip hop moment.
Have a love and hip hop moment.
Okay.
We're having fun. But I just don't want you to mess up your life by joining on with these people. You know what I'm saying? Leave
Who
off
are
the
these
Afro,
people?
The Afro people. But let's move on because of time.
Yeah, let's move on, because I'm not sure if we're on the same page, and I'm not sure if this is a joke or if we're serious, and I'm not sure how I'm supposed to react.
Amazing. That is amazing. Amazing. Amazing.
See, geeks resumes. Boom, stick man.
So yeah, we had Uncle Ruckus there. Oh man, what can you say? Uncle Ruckus and the butler Samuel Jackson in Django, who saw Django. Yeah, remember Samuel Jackson played that? He looked just like Uncle Ruckus in that movie. They I guess they purposefully made him look just like Uncle Ruckus because he had the same mentality, you know. But yeah, that dude. See, some parts, of course, some parts of what he was saying, I agree with, you know, and some parts of what he's saying I agree with, you know, in terms of, you know, we need to be self-sufficient, you know, not relying on anyone, do for self, this, that, and the other. But he's mixing it with coonism when he says that, you know, we're not smart enough for the jobs that we're on. We only get the jobs because of affirmative action and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. That's that Candace Owens, you know, Negro Negress rhetoric, you know. But you know, I'm not gonna keep y'all too long. I thank everybody, and yes, definitely, thank you. Peace. I'm Kiera. Please thumbs up and subscribe, and I thank everyone in the chat for all of your comments and input, feedback. You know, it's much appreciated. And yeah, y'all could be doing a whole lot of other things tonight, but you know, you chose to tune into the Red Road East, you know. And again, I know a lot of people, you know, have family from out of town and things of that nature. You know, I have a lot more material to share, but if I were to share all of that material, you know, we'd be on here for another 5 hours or so. So that's why I'm breaking up this particular topic into parts. You know, it's a whole lot more to share, but I'm breaking it up. And we'll probably do a part two maybe on Tuesday. Yeah, maybe on Tuesday. And I will be having a special guest this week. Dr. Fatu Diara will be on this week. I'll announce the day in the community section, the day and the time. Okay. So I want y'all to stay tuned for that. That's going to be a powerful show, very powerful show. I'm looking forward to it, you know. And yeah, so on that note, you know, I'm not going to keep y'all uh, too much longer. Yeah, thanks for joining in, cuz. Yeah. And, you know, I'm glad y'all enjoyed the show. And the following shows that will be coming up is going to be even more entertaining. Yes, Dr. Fatu, she deals with DNA. You know, that's her area of expertise. And she's been on the show before. And she's got tons of more information since the last time she was on the show. She's got a lot to share. And that's going to be a show that you definitely don't want to miss because she's going to show through DNA, you know, how we are the original inhabitants of this land. Not that there weren't other people in ancient America. That's not to discredit anyone's indigeneity. Okay, I want to put that out there. But she's talking about the most ancient people on the land. Okay, and she is showing that through the DNA and also showing the migrations of our people, and also the influences and people who have come and mixed in with our people here as well. Okay, and yeah, she's pretty thorough. She's pretty thorough. She's just tune in. You can get your questions for her prepared. You have time to do so. Write down all those questions. Don't forget them. You know, and she'll be happy to answer those questions for sure. All right. So I won't hold y'all much longer. And again, you know, I thank everyone. It was a blast. I enjoyed the interaction with everybody, and you know, until the next time, I'm gonna close out saying, "Go to dog, uh huh,